Using the same modular philosophy first seen back in 1987, the new GSXR looks almost identical to its little bro, the 750. Suzuki achieved this packaging wizardry by using the same engine cases and head as the 750. And the same approach was used with the chassis as well. Again, the engineering spec sheet practically mirrors the 750. So what is different? Well, lower in stroke for one, plus more aggressive cams and a heavier crank. There's also now an exhaust valve in the pipe, mated to the dual throttle valve fuel injection system, all controlled with a new engine management system.
Well, Colin, it's cold, it's damp, we're in Atlanta. We must be at another Suzuki launch.
Well, that's not fair. The last time we were here, it was beautiful and sunny. Had a really good time with the GSXR 600. Here, unfortunately, we seem to be road testing how much clothing we've brought with us because it's cold and unsuitable to the point they're not letting us ride this morning.
Well, I'm wearing everything I brought, so I'm sort of weighed down, but this bike, boy, it's
not
light.
It's not weighed down at all. It's the third of the 1, 2, 3 punch. And of course, the third punch is usually the knockout if you've got the combination right. And although we've had very limited riding opportunities so far, this bike is ungodly fast.
All the tricks in the book, all the very latest technology from Suzuki is in that motor. We've seen the dual throttle valve, butterfly valve fuel injection system before, but now we've got something on the exhaust. We've got an exhaust system as well.
Yeah,
That's
we've
got something
seen
tricked.
exhaust valves in racing and in some street applications. Of course, Honda's 929 has very, very nice power delivery, at least partially due to that. But the combination of all the elements in this motorcycle, and Suzuki actually are calling it engine management, which is not a term normally bandied around too much in motorcycles, but is very common now, particularly in performance cars. But the combination of the 3D mapping with the ignition, the dual stage fuel injection, the exhaust valve, the way the ignition works, the number of sensors determining airspeed, road speed, gear choice, throttle load, and you've got a motorcycle that's quite bright, which may not be the appropriate expression, but that's kind of how you look at it, and is helping you make the right decisions. And when you've got something like 150 horsepower at the rear wheel, some help is appreciated.
Does it work? Have you got torque all the way through the power band? That's what they were striving for.
Well, the old torque king, of course, was the GSXR 1100, which is a physically much bigger, much heavier, longer wheelbase, longer swing arm motorcycle. This doesn't really look that much different from the 600 or the 750, but man, to ride it, it is fast. The last motorcycle I rode here at Road Atlanta was the GSXR 600, and there are straightaways that just completely disappear on this motorcycle. Before you've had a chance to think about it, you're at the next turn, and it requires a great deal of organization. But to get to the point you asked, yes, it works. It's got really seamless power delivery, terrific throttle response, a lot of torque, but it's controllable, and you have a good feel for the motorcycle, a good feel for the traction, and that's crucial when you've got that kind of power and you're trying to exploit it. You know, yeah, you can drive it around all day at 4,000 RPM, but that's not where the fun comes in.
The other thing that's amazing about this bike is you mentioned its size. When we had the briefing yesterday, they talked about the wheelbase being exactly the same as the 750, rake, trail, all similar, swing arm length, similar.
Which is surprising, yeah.
Very surprising. So handling, does it feel nimble?
It is a nimble motorcycle. It feels heavier, partly because it's set up very stiff. I would guess, although they haven't specifically told us, the steering damper is a little bit stiffer in terms of its setup. Remember, the motor is a little bit heavier and the internals have to be because of the displacement of the bike. So in terms of flicking it from side to side compared to a 600, no, it's not a nimble motorcycle. Compared to any previous bike of this type, yes, very nimble. Certainly, if you're thinking this was going to be at all like the GSXR 1000, no. It's like a slightly heavier steering GSXR 750, and of course, in terms of taking a stock street bike to the racetrack, the GSXR 750 is about as good as it gets. Unfortunately, your overriding impression is all to do about performance and throttle response. You have to be so organized to get the most out of this bike. It doesn't wheelie to the point of having fun. It wheelies to the point of you've got to pay attention, move your weight forward, pick your gears right, or it's going to stand right up at the slightest provocation. If you're not organized and coming out of a tight turn in the lower gears, it will wham you back as far as you can go in the seat. I mean, all the things you want to hear about a 1000cc hardcore sport bike, this thing does. It is a rocket, and it accelerates like, you know, 4th and 5th gear. It's pulling like most motorcycles pull in 2nd gear. It's just remarkable how hard it pulls. I don't think anyone who's interested in this kind of bike is going to be at all disappointed about the way the bike's put together. The seating position is a little more spacious than previous GSXRs. The wind protection's good. It's about what we come to expect from the 750 and the 600. It's a flexible enough bike to be fun on the street, but back road riding and track days, this thing is going to rock.